It's one of the most closely watched battleground districts in the nation, and both Republicans and Democrats are pouring millions into this race. New York's 17th Congressional District is a suburban area that makes up all of Rockland and Putnam counties, as well as parts of Dutchess County.
My family's been here for over 100 years.
Republican Congressman Mike Lawler currently represents the district, and although it's his first term, he has represented the area before in the state assembly. Lawler was born and raised in Rockland County. He and his wife have been married for 9 years, and they just welcomed their second daughter this week.
I've been rated the fourth most bipartisan member of Congress in my time in Washington. I've passed 10 bills, 5 of which have been signed into law by President Biden, and we've brought back over $70 million in community project funding for this district.
Lawler's Democratic opponent, Mondaire Jones, is also a familiar face to the district.
I'm running to return to Congress because I want to finish the work that I started.
Jones represented a large chunk of this district in 2020, but after redistricting, Jones chose not to run again in the 17th district after he was pitted against a former Democratic Congressional Committee chairman, Sean Patrick Maloney, who ultimately lost against Lawler. Jones tried to run in the 10th Congressional District, but lost in the primary. Since then, Jones has been serving on the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Jones grew up in Section 8 housing in the village of Spring Valley, was raised by a single mom who worked multiple jobs and relied on food stamps.
Policy, and specifically economic policy, and building an economy that works for everybody is something that I have always been passionate about because of my lived experience.
Immigration is a key issue in this race. Lawler says he wants to end sanctuary city policies and allow for law enforcement to cooperate with ICE, as well as cut down on the amount of money being spent by localities to provide free food and housing to those who have entered the country illegally. Lawler introduced a bipartisan bill called the Dignity Act, which he says would have made much needed changes to the legal immigration system while also stopping the influx of crossings at the border.
We need an immigration system that works. The Senate bill, the bipartisan border bill in the Senate, was a disaster because it would have codified into law catch and release.
Jones says he would have voted for the Senate's bipartisan border deal, but does agree that law enforcement should be allowed to cooperate with ICE when it comes to migrants who have been convicted of violent crimes. If elected, Jones says he would work to provide more funding for additional border agents and judges who can adjudicate asylum claims faster. In the meantime, Jones also believes the federal government should step up to help states like New York that have spent billions on this crisis.
The federal government is creating this crisis by not securing our border. It should not fall on New York State to shoulder the burden of this experience.
When it comes to alleviating cost of living pressures, Lawler says the first bill he introduced while in office was to lift the cap on state and local tax deductions. He also introduced a bill to kill congestion pricing. Additionally, Lawler also has been making a push to increase domestic production of energy and increase the housing supply.
We need to incentivize development. We need to reduce barriers to entry. We need to reduce cost of construction. We need to reduce energy and utility costs.
Jones says he doesn't support how the congestion pricing bill was written, but does believe in improving the quality of public transportation. If elected, he would restore state and local tax deductions, expand Medicare, work on legislation to better fund the Section 8 housing program, as well as make child care more affordable.
That's personal for me, given my story of having to go to work with my grandmother when daycare was too expensive growing up. And I don't want any person to have to deal with that.
Now, when it comes to abortion, Lawler says he will not vote for a national abortion ban and has pushed to codify access to IVF into law. Now, Jones supports abortion and fertility treatments and has introduced a bill to codify Roe v. Wade into law. Steve, Natasha?
And as if this whole thing wasn't close enough, because this is certainly one of the most interesting congressional races. You've also got this sort of mysterious third-party Working Families Party candidate, and the question is, who does that take votes away from, I guess, right?
Yeah, no one was quite expecting this. So Mondaire Jones lost the Working Families Party support after he endorsed one of their candidates' opponents. So this guy, Anthony Frascone, ended up winning, but the WFP says that he's a Republican plant. He's done no campaigning. He's done no fundraising. He doesn't even have a campaign website. And there was a huge surge of voters who registered in the Working Families Party in Rockland County. So they think that this was an effort by the Republican Party to pull away votes from Jones. Now, there are lawsuits that are likely going to be happening to challenge this later on, but this is a huge concern. And now the WFP is actively campaigning against him, telling people not to vote for Frascone, but it's definitely something that hasn't really been seen before. And this definitely is going to be a lesson later in the election.
It's really interesting. Wow.